Masechet Avoda Zara Daf Ayin He. Bame menagevan. If someone has a wine press or other utensils used by non-Jews for prohibited wine, and now the Jew wants to take it over and use it for kosher wine, how does one cleanse it? Rav Amar b'mayim. Rabba bar Chana Amar be'efer. Rav says use water. Rabba bar Chana says one uses ashes. That would be a cleansing detergent in the olden days, soap. Rav Amar b'mayim v'lo be'efer. Now, Rav who says with water, does he mean only rinse it with water and don't use ashes? Rabba bar Chana Amar be'efer v'lo b'mayim. And Rabba bar Chana who says is with ashes, just ashes and no water. I mean, these two things work best when you put them together. Just soap without water, just water without soap is not going to give you a good cleaning as much as both together. Rather, when Rav says water, he means, water and also ashes. When he says ashes, he means and also water. So they agreed you need both ingredients. So what's the difference? They actually are in agreement with each other. They were only talking about different cases. If the item is already moist, then you can start with the soap. That's the Babar Chana. It's already wet, so then you just put ashes on it. Whereas Rav was talking about an item that's dry. If it's dry, then you have to put water on it first, and only after the water you put the ashes. Itemar be'rav mishmeh derav amri tarte telat ushmel amre telat arba. It was said in the school of Rav, in the name of Rav, that it's not just enough to have one rinse, but rather you need 2 or 3 stages. What do you mean 2 or 3? It depends. If it's already wet before you start, then you just need 2 stages. It's already wet, so you put ashes, and then you put the water to wash it off. So that's just 2. Whereas if it's dry, then you need 3 steps. First you have to put water, and then ashes, and then water again to wash the soapy water off. Whereas Shemuel disagrees, and he adds an extra step. And he says if it's dry, then you actually need 3 levels. You have to, if it's already damp, so then you put ashes, water, and ashes again. And if it's dry, then you have to put water, then ashes, then water, and then ashes again. That is the way they taught this machloket in Surah. Besurah matnu hachi. Bepumpadita matnu be-rav amri mishmeh derav telat arba. Ushmel amar arba bechamesh. In the Bet Midrash of Pumbedita, they discussed this machloket by adding yet one more step, and they said that in the school of Rav, in the name of Rav, one needs either 3 or 4. That means if it's already wet, so then you put ashes, water, ashes. And if it's dry, then you have to put water, ashes, water, ashes. That's the 4. That's the opinion of Rav. And Shemuel is going to say 4 or 5, meaning that if it's already damp, then after it's damp, you put ashes, water. And if it's dry, then you start with water, then ashes, water. Vela pelige. And actually, the Rav and Shemuel are not in disagreement when one says 3 and 4, and the other says 4 and 5. Mor kachashib maya batra'eh, umor la kachashib maya batra'eh. Shemuel was counting the last water, and when he said 4 and 5, he's counting the last time that you put water, and you wash everything off. Whereas Rav, when he said 3 or 4, he was counting without the last water, because it's already clean. When you put the ashes on the soap on at that point and rub it around, so it's already clean. Now you're just going to put another water on it to get the soap off, but it's not necessary for the cleaning process, so he didn't count that. But in fact, they would agree with the very same process. But the point is that, according to this version, in Pumbedita, you can't just wash it once with soap, but you have to go through a number of 2 cycles of water, and then ashes again, and water again. Be'omine re'merbi abhu hani gorge de arma'e mai. Some students asked Rabbi Abhu regarding wicker nets that are used to hold the grapes while treading. This is an olive press, not a grape press, but you see that the olives would be put into baskets so that they wouldn't just fall down all over the place. So you put them into baskets. So these wicker nets that hold the grapes in, and they belong to non-Jews. So the non-Jews are using them, and they are prohibited because they absorb yayin nesech. And now, if a Jew wants to use them, what do we do? How do we clean them? Amar lehu Rabbi Abu tinituha haresh ayu gitab ubet badav temein ubikesh la'asotan betahara. So Rabbi Abu says, I know the answer from a baraita. Now this baraita is not talking about yayin nesech. It's not talking about non-kosher food at all. It's talking about tum'ah. If someone uses a wine press or an olive press, gitab ubet badav, and they are tameh. Okay, so someone who was tameh used it, and now the press itself is tameh. And now a person comes and wants to use it for tahara. He wants to maybe press tirumah, olives in it. And so he has to make sure it's tahor or whatever, anything that's pressing in it that will be used. Betahara, how do you cleanse the wine press or the olive press so that the taste or the remnant of anything that was there before, that's tahor, will leave it? Hadapin v'hadashim v'halulavin madichan. Regarding the planks, the troughs, and the twigs, the troughs are called adashim. Apparently these are something round that's used in the press. These things one just has to wash. That's it. Ve'ha'akalin shel nesarim v'shel bispus b'negevan, baskets that are made from palm leaves or hemp, those have to be cleansed thoroughly with soap and water. V'shel shifa v'shel gemi miyashenan shenem asar chodesh. And if they're made out of bulrush or reeds, those absorb more, so you have to leave them for 12 months till they totally dry out and the taste is totally gone. It takes a long time for those to get rid of their taste. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer, manichan migat legat mibad lebad. Rashbag says, no, you don't need a full 12 months. Rather, you can just wait from one wine pressing season to the next season or the first olive pressing season this year and just leave it. Don't use it for anything else. And then you can use it at the next olive pressing season. Hainu Tanakama. Now we say, isn't Ashbag the same as Tanakama? The season comes once a year. So it's going to be the same. Ika benayu churfe v'afle. No, the difference between them, it would be the early ripening and the late ripening. So that, according to Tanakama, if you used these baskets for the late ripening one year, you can't use them for the early ripening in the next year because that will not be a full 12 months. It'll be somewhat less than 12 months. So it's not allowed. Whereas Rashbag says that will be okay, even if it's a little bit less than 12 months, 11, 10 months, whatever it is, however long is the difference between the late and the early. If you used it for the late, and now it's called a new season, or even though it's early in the next year's season. Rabbi Yosef says if you want to make them tahor immediately, and you don't want to wait so long, you can. You purge them in boiling water. You do hagala, magilan, same word, hagala. You put them in boiling water, or scald them in water, also hot water that's used for cooking olives. So by putting in hot water, the hot water will remove all the taste. Now these things are tameh, so it's not enough to remove the taste. You're going to have to put them in the mikveh also, because that's how they become from tameh to tahor. But it's not enough to put them in the mikveh only because they're full of taste of tum'ah, wine. And so you have to get rid of it in that way. So you have to either wait a long time or boil it, and then you can put it in the mikveh, and then it'll be tahor. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Mishum Rabbi Yosef omer, manichan tachat sinor, shememav mekalchin, or b'ma'ayan shememav rodfin. V'chama ona. Rashbag has, in the name of Rabbi Yosef, says a different way to make these baskets kosher, put it under a pipe that is constantly flowing water, or a spring that has rapid waters. The pressure of that water pushing through it for a certain period of time, in Ona, we'll see how long that is, that will cleanse it very thoroughly. So that's another way of getting all that taste of the tameh wine out of them. And whatever you say for yain nesech, that we can apply that to taharot. That's what the Baraita says. Now we ask about that. Wait, it should be the opposite. But taharot kaminan. This whole Baraita is about something that's tameh, that you want to make tahor. Rather, read the Baraita, this line this way. It says, whatever you say about taharot, so that's what you should say about yayin nesech also. And so that's what the Abu's proof is. I have a proof. from the laws of Tuma and Tahara, if you have Tameh baskets and you can't just put them in the Mikveh, you have to get the taste of the Tameh wine out first. How do you get the taste of Tuma out? So we went through all the different scenarios depending on what it's made out of, and these are the different ways to make it tahor, to get the taste out. Whatever you say about that, that will be the same as if something was used by non-Jews for yain nesech, and now you want to use it for something kosher. You go through the same process. Kama ona. Truth is that the Baraita probably, what it had originally was the original Baraita, and that Baraita had a source about yain nesech and said, here's the laws from going from Tuma and Tahara, just like yain nesech, and so it's referring to some source about yain nesech. But Rabbi Abu doesn't have that source regarding yain nesech, so he's learning from here, from Tuma and Tahara to yain nesech, so we change around the order of what we're learning. Kama ona. Now, how long would you have to put something under a stream of water so that it will be koshered? Amar Rabbi Chiya bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan, yom or laila, either a whole day or a whole night. Not 24 hours, but half of a 24-hour day. Rabbi Chana she'ina, ve'amri la Rabbi Chana bar she'ina, Amar Abba bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, chatzi yom or chatzi laila. Another set of students also said, name Rabbi Yochanan, half a day and half a night. Now, what does it mean half a day and half a night? Well, it seems to be the same thing. Half a day, 6 hours. Half a night, also 6 hours. So either a whole day or a whole night, or half a day and half a night, or half a night and half a day. Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Yitzchak v'la pilige, ha b'tkuvat Nisan v'Tishrei, ha b'tkuvat Tammuz v'Tebet. These two traditions from Rabbi Yochanan are not arguing with each other, but rather they're talking about a different time period, different seasons. If you're talking about Nisan and Tishrei, when the day and night are equal in length, so then you could say a day. A day is 12 hours, or a whole night, 12 hours. So the point is it has to be 12 hours. And the second tradition that said half a day and half a night, that's talking about in the summer or winter, when the day is longer or the night is longer. Then a whole day, a whole day in the winter is less than 12 hours, not enough time. A whole night in the summer is less than 12 hours, not enough time. But if you had to take half a day and half a night, it doesn't matter what time of the year is, half a day and half a night will always be 12 hours exactly. And so they're all saying the same thing. You need 12 hours. Amar Rav Yehuda, Hani Ravuke de Arma'eh, de Mazya Madichan, de Amra Menagevan, de Chitana Meyashenan. Rav Yehuda says that these straining bags, so these would be bags and you'd put the wine in it, and the bags would strain out the bad stuff that you don't want. If they're used by non-Jews, how do you kosher it? Depends. If it's made out of hair does not absorb, and so you could just rinse them, that's enough. If it's made out of wool, then you have to cleanse them good with detergent and water. If it's made out of flax, that's even more absorbent, then you have to leave them for a long time. If they have knots in them, you have to undo the knots because it's not going to dry, the taste is not going to get out from inside the knots so well. So you have to undo the knots so that it has more room to breathe, to dry out. And then you kosher it. Regarding baskets and strainers that non-Jews used for yain nesech, and you want to kosher them. So here again, it depends what it's made out of. If they're made out of palm trees, the palm strips do not absorb much, so just rinse them with water, that's enough. If it's made from reeds, they absorb a little more. Then you have to clean them with soap and water. And if it's made out of flax, then that absorbs a lot. So then you have to leave them for a long period of time. And if there are knots in it, again, you have to make sure to undo the knots. Itemar. Amar shoshit yado legat v'naga be'eshkolot. Rabbi Chiya, Chad amar eshkol v'chol sibotav temein, v'chol gat kula tehora. Chad amar kol gat kula nami teme'ah. If an Amma Aretz, who's not careful with Tumah and Tahara, so we assume that he's tameh, and he reached out his hand and touched a cluster of grapes in the wine press. There's a machloket. What about that? Certainly, that the cluster is going to be considered tameh. But what about all the rest of the grapes that are in that wine press? It's a machloket between Rabbi and Rabbi Chiya. We don't know who said which, but one of them said that just that cluster and the ones nearby that are touching it, those will become tameh because those are in direct contact. but the rest of the wine press tahor. But however, the other opinion said, since he touched one, they're all considered connected together. It's all one thing, and touching one cluster is going to make all of the wine and grapes in the wine press tameh. Ulman da'amar eshkol v'chol sebibotav tamein v'chol agat kula tehora ma'ishna mehaditnan sheresh shenimsa berachayim eno metameh ela makom maga'o v'im haya mashkin mehalech hakol tameh. According to the lenient opinion over here that says if a da'amar touches a cluster of grapes, only that cluster of grapes and what's immediately around it will be tameh, but the rest of the wine press will be tahor. You're going to be lenient there. What's the difference between that case and the following Mishnah Masechet Taharot that says that if you have a dead creepy crawly, a dead frog, that's in an oil press, it only makes tameh what that dead frog is touching. But if there is liquid flowing in the mill, then everything is tameh. Now, this case of the wine press, it seems it would be similar to the case where there is liquid flowing, because we assume that there's wine flowing in the wine press also. And so just like the dead creepy crawly is going to make the whole wine press tameh, so too the ama'aretz touching one cluster of grapes should make the whole thing tameh, treat the whole thing as one block. And the answer is hatam la mafsak v'la midi hacham mifsekei eshkolot. Now, regarding the oil press, there's nothing interrupting the flow of liquid. Now, oil press, you pack all the olives together and then you start crushing them. So now the oil is all over, connecting everything into one whole thing. And if you touch one part, then the whole thing will become tameh. But when it comes to clusters of grapes, so then, yeah, there is some wine that's flowing down, but you still have clusters of grapes and there's space in between. And so the flow of the liquid is interrupted, and therefore it only makes the immediate surroundings tameh, but not the rest of it. Oru le Rabbanan le Rabbi Yirmiyah, v'amri la libre de Rabbi Yirmiyah, ke dibre ha'omer ha'eshkol v'chol sibotav tamein v'chol hagat kula tehora. The sages taught that according to Rabbi Yirmiyah, or some say the son of Rabbi Yirmiyah, he said that the halacha follows the opinion that says that only the cluster and right around it is tameh, but the rest of the press is tahor. Next Mishnah. Halokech kelet tashmish min hagoyim. Et shedarko latbil yatbil. Lagil yagil. Lelaben ba'or ilaben ba'or. Hashafud v'ha'as kela. Melabenan ba'or. Hasakin shafaha vehi tehora. Very important sugya here about how to kosher pots and pans and different utensils, which is very relevant today, all year round, and especially on Pesach. If someone buys vessels from a non-Jew, that non-Jew used it for non-kosher. So how are you going to kosher it? If it's something that is used for cold, and so you don't have to worry about the taste that's inside, then all you have to do is immerse it in a mikveh. So actually, there's two different laws that we have to deal with. Number one is getting the prohibited taste out of it. And so that you're going to have to do kebolo kach poto, the same way that it's used in order to absorb the prohibited item, so too you get it out. So that's what we're going to see on the rest of the list. But in addition to getting the bad taste out, we also are going to put it in a mikveh, not for technical ritual purity, that is tameh or tahor, but rather to induce it into the Jewish home. This was used by non-Jews before, and so now we want to inaugurate it, and we put it into a mikveh, so which we still do today. Okay, so if it's something that only needs tevilah and doesn't need to be koshered because there's nothing absorbed in it, then you just put it in a mikveh. But if it's something that was used in hot water to cook, then you have to purge it also in hot water by dunking the vessel into boiling water. If it's something that was used by putting into fire, like used in a barbecue, then you have to kosher it by making it white hot, also in fire. And so that would apply to a spit and a grill. In order to kosher them, you have to put them in fire and make them white hot. Regarding a knife, you have to polish it, and once you polish it, it will be considered kosher. Gemara, Tana, V'cholan serichin tevilah b'arba'im se'ah. A Braita teaches that regarding everything on the list in the Mishnah, don't think that the things that you put in fire just need to be put in fire and that's it. Everything on the list, in addition to being koshered from taste, also have to be dunked in a mikveh that has 40 se'ah of water. Now, what's the source of this? It's not if it's actually tameh and you want to use it for taharot. Okay, then that's the general law of tuman tahara. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about just to use it at all, even for tameh food. You have to, if you acquire it from a non-Jew, you have to put it in a mikveh to inaugurate it. Amar Avoda Amar Kera. Kol davar asher yavo ba'esh taviru ba'esh v'taher. We learned it from the war against Midian, when Bnei Israel won and took the vessels of the Midianites, and they had to kosher them. So it says there, anything that is used in fire, you have to pass it through fire. That's to get the taste of the non-kosher food out. But then the pasuk adds v'taher, and also purify it. The pashat of the pasuk is by putting it through fire, then it will be purified. But we're reading it as an extra word, and also purify it. You see, the pasuk is adding another type of purification in addition to the fire. Also, you have to dunk it in a mikveh. תענה בר כפרה, מתוך שנאמר במי נידה, שומע אני שצריך הזעה של אישי ושביעי, בר כפרה looks at the entire pasuk that we just quoted from, so let's look at the whole pasuk. It says there, regarding the spoils that they got from Midian, if the vessel is made out of gold or silver or copper or iron, tin or lead. If it's used in fire, then you have to pass it through fire to kosher it. V'tahed, we just saw that meant that you have to put it in a mikveh. But then the pasuk goes on and says, Ach b'mei nida yitchata, but only it should be purified in waters of nida. This phrase is also found regarding para aduma. That's what he's noticing. And then if it's not used in fire, then tavidu b'mayim, you kosher it in water. So what does this phrase come to teach? So Bar Kapara says, since it says menida, which is also said regarding para aduma, so just like when you want to purify someone who has corpse impurity, you have to sprinkle on them the para aduma, ashes and water, on the 3rd and 7th day. So maybe regarding vessels that you acquire from a non-Jew, before you could start using them, maybe you have to put them in a mikveh on the 3rd day and the 7th day, and only after that you can use them. Talmud Lomad ach chilek. That's why this says the word ach. Ach is a limiting word to say, no, there's a distinction. It was not going to be exactly like paraduma. There's some similarity, but actually you don't need the 3rd and 7th day. Regarding these vessels, you just kosher them right away, and then you could kosher them and start using them right away. Okay, if you're going to say that's not the same as menida, not the same as paraduma, then why mention paraduma? Why make a reference to menida? מים שנידה טובלת בהן. הווה אומר 40 שנה. Oh, so this is not a reference to paraduma, but rather to the laws of nida. Just like a woman who's nida, she has to go in water. What kind of water? Not just a little bathtub. She has to go into a mikveh of 40 se'ah. So too, vessels that one gets from a non-Jew, it's not sufficient just to wash them or dunk them into a little sink. Rather, you have to put them into a kosher mikveh. So then, why not just say just menida? And I would know that you have to purify them in a mikveh. What does the word v'taher come to add? I need both tahor, this word v'taher, and I need the word menida, because if it had only word taher, I would say even a little bit of water. That's why we need menida to teach me that. You need a whole mikveh. And if it said only bemenida, I might have thought that the item does not become tahor until sunset. Regarding a person who's tameh or nida, if they go to the mikveh during the day, it's not enough. They have to wait till nightfall, till they are tahor. That's the rule. During the day, then let's say someone touched a dead mouse, and then they're tameh. They go to the mikveh during the day. They're not tahor not completely tahor, for eating terumah, for example, until nightfall. So I might have thought that's the same thing regarding a vessel. If you buy a vessel from a non-Jew during the day, and you go to the mikveh and you take it to the mikveh and dunk it in the keli mikveh, maybe you have to wait till nightfall to use it. That's not true. That's why it says the word v'taher, to teach me that immediately after you put it in the mikveh, you can begin using the vessel. It's already tahor. Amar Rav Nachman Amar bar Abu. Afilu kelim chadashim b'mashma. Taha yeshanim v'libenan kechadashim damu. Afilu achi ba'e tebila. Rav Nachman, the name of Rabba bar Abu, says, this law that you have to take the vessels that you buy from a non-Jew, you have to put it in the mikveh. It applies even to new vessels, even if the non-Jew never used it. He just made it right off the factory line, so there's no problem of non-kosher taste in it. Still, you have to put it in the mikveh. How does he know that? Because even if you have old vessels and you put them in white hot fire, that's like new, right? It's like you're re-burning it and there's no taste in it. So it's the same as a new vessel, and nevertheless, not just enough to do libun, you have to also put in the mikveh. So 2 new vessels, you have to put them in the mikveh. Matkif la Rav Sheshat, afilu zuzah desarba la nameh. So Rav Sheshat says, if you're going to apply it to everything, then maybe you should apply even to scissors. But scissors are used for cutting clothing, not for cutting food. So is it going to apply to everything? Amar le keli seuda amurin beparasha. And he said, no, in the parasha regarding Mijan, that's referring to vessels that are made for preparing food, but not other things. So scissors that are used for cutting clothing, that you do not have to put it in the mikveh. You can buy it from a non-Jew and just use it. Only vessels that are used for food preparation have to be put in the mikveh. Amar Rav Nachman bar Amar Rabba bar Avu lo shanu ela bilkuchin uchmaseh shahaya aval sheulin lo. Rabbi Nachman says the name of Rabba bar Avu. That one only has to dip in the mikveh. The items, vessels that are used for food, that one buys from a non-Jew, because that's what happened there. Well, they didn't buy it; they conquered them and took their spoils, but this is a transfer of ownership and no longer is owned by the Midianites, it's owned by Bnei Israel. If it changes ownership, like when you buy it, then you have to put it in the mikveh. But if you're just borrowing it, then you don't have to. So therefore, if a Jew goes and borrows utensils from a non-Jew, assuming they're kosher, I mean, let's say he didn't use them before, they're new, then you don't have to put them in the mikveh because the Jew does not own them. Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef Zeban mana de marda migoy sabar lehatbila amar lehu merabanan v'Rabbi Yaakov shemeh ledidi mefarsha le mine de Rabbi Yochanan kele matachot amurin b'parasha. One time, Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef bought a marda. A marda is made out of earth and dung. And he bought this from a non-Jew, and he thought that he has to immerse it because it's a new vessel, and he's using it for food, so he thought he has to do it. However, a sage, his name was Rabbi Yaakov, said, no, I heard from Rabbi Yochanan that this law of dunking things in the mikveh only applies to metal utensils, as it says in the parasha. We just read the Pisukim. It says gold and silver and tin and lead and so on. Only metal items need to be put in the mikveh. And this, if it's made out of clay and dung, earthenware, do not need to be dunked in the mikveh. Amar Rav Asher, hanekele zichuchi to'il v'chi nishtaberu yesh lahen takana kechle matachot damu. Rav Asher adds that glass utensils, since if they break, you can fix them. You can melt down the glass, and you can make a new vessel. That is similar to metal, where also, if it gets bent out of shape, if it cracks, you can also melt it and fix it. So since glass has that same quality like metal, glass also requires dunking in the mikveh. And that's the halakha till today. The number one thing you have to put in the mikveh is metal. Metal, you put dunk in the mikveh with a beracha. And then glass also we put in the mikveh, but things made out of other materials do not need to be dunked in the mikveh. Kunya, peligi ba Rav Acha v'Rabina. Chad amar ketchilato, v'chad amar kesofo, v'ilcheta kesofo. These items that are glazed earthenware. So it's earthenware on the inside, and they're glazed with lead on the outside. So do we consider them like earthenware, and therefore they don't need to be dunked, or is it like metal because it's glazed in metal? This is a machloket between Rav Acha and Ravina. One said we follow what it was originally. Originally it started off as earthenware and therefore does not need to be dunked in the mikveh. But the other opinion says you follow what it is at the end, and at the end it's glazed with metal, so we consider it metal and you have to but dunk it in the mikveh. And halacha is that we follow what it is at the end, which in this case it would be metal. Ibaya lehu mashkanta mai. Question: what if a Jew has an item that is a collateral? A non-Jew had some metal tray, and he gave it to the Jew as collateral for a loan. So collateral, technically, it's still owned by the non-Jew, and the Jew is just holding it until he gets paid his money, and then he'll give it back. So what is the law? If the Jew wants to use it, does he have to dunk it in the mikveh? Amar mor barav asher abba mishken legoy kasad dechaspa. So Mor, the son of Rav Asher, said about his father, Rav Asher, that one time a non-Jew gave him a silver goblet as collateral for a loan, and Rav dunked it in the mikveh and then drank from it. And they didn't know why he did that. Did he think that a collateral is like a purchase? Basically, I gave you money, you gave me the silver cup. Well, that's very much like a purchase. That happens to be, if you give me back the money, I'll give you back the cup. But right now, you have the money, I have the cup. So it's like a sale, and therefore, even if he's expecting to get the money back and give the cup back, nevertheless, it's like his now, and he has to dunk it in mikveh to use it. Is that why he did that? Or is it because he saw that this non-Jew is not planning on paying his debt back, and he's planning on leaving the cup there? So already at that point, it's not collateral. It's done. It's his already. And so that's why he dunked it in the mikveh. But if it was a case where it was really just a collateral, and the non-Jew said, I'm going to pay you tomorrow, I'm going to bring back, I'm going to get my cup back, then maybe he would not have had to dunk it in the mikveh. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.